In the business world, it's dog eat dog, and you need every bit of competitive edge you can possibly get. Whether you're a salesperson, an entrepreneur, a small business owner, or corporate executive, you've landed on the podcast that gives you that edge and more. This is the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. Exploring the strategies, tactics, and mindset shifts needed to elevate your business and leadership skills to new heights. Your host has walked the walk. He's coached thousands of clients to remarkable results and rubbed shoulders with legends like Tony Robbins, Ken Blanchard, Jack Canfield, and Brian Tracy. It's practical advice, inspiring stories, and the occasional dose of tough love, helping you to overcome challenges and seize opportunities. This is the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. And now your host, owner of Potential in Motion, coaching you to the edge of what's possible, Tom Kelly.
Welcome to the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Kelly. I'm super excited about today's podcast as it's a topic that doesn't get talked about frequently, but when it comes to leadership and sales is imperative. If you're a leader or in sales, or anyone for that matter, one of the most important tools that you have in your toolbox is your ability to influence others. Influence is extremely important in leadership and sales because it enables you to motivate, inspire, and guide others to achieve common goals without relying on authority alone. It fosters collaboration, drives innovation, and is critical for managing change, resolving conflicts, and building trust between you and others and within an organization. Effective leaders understand that influence moves beyond a title, allowing them to create lasting impact and achieve extraordinary results. Top salespeople understand that your ability to influence your prospects and customers to take action and move forward with your proposed solutions will dictate how successful you are. The foundation for influence is your ability to create rapport. Rapport is defined as a close, harmonious relationship of mutual understanding, trust, and agreement between people. Whenever you have two people that have rapport, the person with more certainty about the outcome will influence the other person. If you think about this as a math equation, influence equals rapport plus certainty. While this seems logical, if you look around our world today, it's sometimes hard to create rapport with others. We live in a world where there's a lot of division as well as friction between people. When this is the case, it makes it almost impossible to influence someone to see your point of view or for you to understand theirs. In today's podcast, I'm going to take you through a model that I use to break down what I like to call someone's model of the world. Model of the world refers to our internal model of the external world that serves to help us make sense of our surroundings and navigate reality. Someone's model of the world is determined by multiple factors, including their personality, what motivates them, how they prefer to communicate, the generation they grew up in, their cultural background, their genetics and biology, and their life experience, which determine their belief systems and how they think about things. Once you understand these things about someone, you'll have a much deeper understanding about how to create rapport with them. By using the simple model that I'll teach you today, you'll be able to quickly and effectively understand others at a much deeper level, and if you're willing to be flexible in your approach with others, this will enable you to quickly build rapport with them. So let's jump in and get started. The first thing I look at when I'm trying to determine someone's model of the world is their personality. Personality is a great predictor of how you'll behave, and it's a great starting point when trying to understand someone and how to better connect with them. While there are numerous personality models and tests out there, I like to use the DISC model, as it's probably the easiest model to understand. With DISC, there are four main traits that define someone's personality, the D, I, S, and C. Each person is a combination of these four traits, and if you understand each one, you can quickly predict someone's behavior. By developing a strong command of the DISC language, you'll be able to, number one, know your personality. Number two, recognize the other person's personality. And number three, flex and adapt your style for more effective communication and deeper rapport. I'm not going to do a deep dive today on DISC, but I will give you a quick crash course so that you can start using this immediately, as it's one of the most effective tools to build rapport with others. The easiest way to think about DISC is to understand that DISC is based on observable behaviors. Each of the four traits is determined by two things, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, and whether you're task-focused or people-focused. The high D is the dominant driver. This personality is task-focused and extroverted. People that are high D are direct, driven, move quickly, and like to get results. They are driven by the underlying emotion of anger. When someone tells them they can't do something, or there's a challenge in front of them, they will use that emotion of anger to prove everyone wrong. Some examples of people that are high D would be Michael Jordan or Elon Musk. Most high Ds will suffer from what I call Michael Jordan syndrome, which is give me the ball and get out of the way. Most high Ds are aggressive, move quickly, and are willing to go it alone when others around them don't move at their pace or have their same results focus. They are very task-oriented, like to take risks, and often don't focus on the people side of things or care what others think about them. The high I is the influencer. This personality is people-focused and extroverted. They are driven by optimism and are often seen as the life of the party. They usually have great people and influencing skills, are fun to be around, and have large networks of friends and people that know them. They are usually early adopters of technology, as they love to be on the cutting edge. They are also great at name dropping and will often talk your ear off. Some examples of people that are high I would be former President Bill Clinton and comedian Jim Carrey. Usually the tip-off to identifying someone that is high I is their need to interact and talk with others. This personality is also really geared to having experiences. The high S is the steady relator. Steady, calm, and easygoing, this personality is people-oriented and introverted. They go along to get along and are often referred to as Midwest friendly. They are very non-emotional and even-keeled and want you to like them. They will usually avoid conflict at all costs, so they tend to tell you what you want to hear so that you will like them. They are very loyal to a fault and usually have a small circle of friends that they trust and take a long time to let you into their world. They're very organized in their approach and like to build systems when there aren't any. They like tried and true approaches and are very resistant to change. They like to win like the high D personality, but do so in a very unobtrusive way. If you remember the old fable, The Tortoise and the Hare, they are the tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race. By the way, the high D is the hare. Former President Jimmy Carter, Gandhi, and Charlie Brown are all great examples of the high S personality. Finally, the high C is cautious and compliant. This personality is task-oriented and introverted. The high C is very analytical and is driven by avoiding fear. High Cs make great engineers, accountants, computer programmers, and quality specialists. They are perfectionists and like to pay attention to the details. They often think what can go wrong and then try to come up with ways to make sure those things don't happen. They tend to be extremely introverted and tend to like to work alone. Some great examples of high C people are Mr. Spock from Star Trek or Bill Gates. So you may be thinking, that's great, Tom, but how does that help me create rapport with someone? The key here is to first understand your personality type, and then once you understand the other person's personality, flex in your communication style to better connect with them. Let me give you a quick example. I had a client recently approach me with a big problem. He had a superstar employee that he just didn't get along with. He told me that he would send an email looking for a quick yes or no response and would get a long, drawn-out response with no answer to his question. When he was in meetings with this person, she would ask him about his weekend or what he was up to outside of work. It drove him crazy as he just wanted answers so that he could drive results. When I asked him how she viewed him, he said he was pretty sure she didn't like him either. He was afraid that she was going to quit, while at the same time thinking it might be good if she did. I talked to him about the fact that he had a high D personality and that she was high I. Once he understood DISC, he started to see what the problem was. So I simply had him call her into his office, explain what we had talked about, and they had a good laugh. She admitted that their personality differences were causing lots of friction, and both of them decided that they would flex and meet in the middle, with him slowing down and being more personable, and her focusing on getting to the point. Once they did that and understood each other at a deeper level, they were able to build much more rapport and had a great working relationship. The bottom line here is when you understand how the other person likes to behave and match your personality to theirs, you'll create a much deeper connection and instant rapport. If you want to learn more about DISC and how to leverage this great tool, there's all sorts of information online. Additionally, I highly recommend the book The Universal Language of DISC, a reference manual by Bill Bonstetter. This book is a really comprehensive deep dive on DISC and is super helpful if you want to master this great tool. There are also some great resources on my website at www.businesscoachchicago.com under the Assessments tab. The second thing I like to look at is what motivates someone. This is really important as it helps you understand why someone does what they do. This is even more impactful when you combine it with their personality, as then you get both how they like to behave and the why behind it. I use a simple model that I learned from Tony Robbins called the 6 human needs to better understand what motivates someone. The 6 human needs take into account someone's top psychological needs. Much like we have physical needs like eating or sleeping, we also have psychological needs that need to be met on a regular basis as well. You can boil this down to 6 needs that everyone has, which are as follows: certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection, growth, and finally contribution. Let me define each one for you, and then I'll talk about how they motivate us. Certainty is a need for comfort and sameness. We all have a need for a place to live, food to eat, a job to go to, and friends and family to confide in. Certainty provides us comfort from our fears. The opposite of certainty is uncertainty or variety. The reality is that if everything was the same all the time, we'd be bored out of our minds. So we all have a need to have some variety in our lives as well. Significance is all about standing apart from the group, winning the trophy, or achieving something that no one else has. We all have a need to feel significant and know that we matter. The opposite of significance is connection. Connection is all about being part of the group and connecting with others. The highest form of connection is love, and of course, we all need to feel loved. We all need to have growth and feel like we're progressing in life. And finally, we all have some type of need to contribute by giving back to others. The key thing to know about the 6 human needs is that we all have the same needs, but what makes each one of us different is the order that we put them in. Whatever our top 2 needs are is called our driving force, and that's what motivates us. So when I'm trying to figure out what motivates someone, I use a simple model, and by observing what they do and how they respond, I can usually figure out what their top 2 needs are. The key thing to know about the 6 human needs is that we all have the same needs, but what makes each one of us different is the order that we put them in. Whatever our top 2 needs are is what's called our driving force, and that's what motivates us. So when I'm trying to figure out what motivates someone, I use this simple model, and by observing what they do and how they respond, I can usually figure out what their top 2 needs are. Then I know what motivates them, which is key if I want to influence them. For example, if you know someone is motivated by growth and significance, I'll frame things up for them in a way that will show them how they will grow and feel more significant by responding to what I'm asking for in a positive way. This is super helpful when you're trying to build rapport and connection with someone. The third thing that I look at when I'm trying to determine someone's model of the world is how they prefer to communicate. There are 4 communication styles: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and digital. The most popular communication style is visual. You can tell if someone is a visual communicator as they usually talk fairly quickly and like to use visual words like "I see what you are saying." They tend to like to draw pictures and diagrams or use PowerPoint slides when they are presenting. They talk quickly as their mind thinks in terms of pictures or visualizations, and then they try to describe what they are seeing. You can also tell if someone is visual by watching their eyes. If their eyes go up when they are talking, that's a sign that they are visual. The second most popular communication style is auditory. Auditory people talk a little more slowly and use auditory words like "I hear what you are saying." If you watch their eyes when they talk, they will move left and right towards their ears. About 5 to 10% of the population is kinesthetic. This communication style is very noticeable as they will speak very slowly as they are trying to connect and get in touch with their feelings while they communicate. Their eyes will often look down as they are connecting with their feelings, and they will use phrases like "I feel it in my gut" or "my intuition tells me" when they are talking to you. The final communication style is digital. Digital communicators tend to be younger as they grew up with technology like cell phones and chat applications. They like to communicate over devices. They'll tend to take notes in the meeting on their cell phone and often will be sitting right next to someone, and instead of just talking to them, they'll reach for their phone and text the person. Another telltale sign of a digital communicator is that they won't answer the phone when you call them, but if you text them, they'll respond immediately. Once you understand someone's preferred communication style, you want to adapt to their preference to build more rapport with them. A great way to do this is to match and mirror their pace, tonality, and the words they use. For example, if someone says, "I had a fantastic weekend," I wouldn't respond with, "I'm glad you had a good weekend." Instead, I would use the same word that they used, "fantastic." Just to show you how powerful this is, have you ever been in a class or presentation where some of the audience is getting it and the rest aren't? I'm sure you've experienced this. One of the main reasons this happens is that there is a disconnect between the teacher or presenter's communication style and the styles in the audience. If the teacher is a visual communicator, for example, and there are kinesthetic communicators in the audience, they won't connect with the message. That's why great teachers and great presenters use multiple styles to get their message across. The bottom line here is that an easy way to build rapport with someone is to notice how they prefer to communicate and then simply match their style. This will remove any friction and enable a much faster connection. The fourth key area to explore is to understand generational differences. Right now, we have 5 different generations in our society, each having grown up in a completely different time with completely different experiences and defining moments, so each generation has a different thought process and model of how things should work. The oldest generation is the traditionalists, who were born between 1925 and 1945. This generation is known as being dependable, straightforward, tactful, and loyal. They were shaped by the Great Depression and World War II and grew up when radio was the predominant entertainment format. They are motivated by respect and recognition. They tend to communicate with a more personal touch, using handwritten notes instead of email. Their worldview is obedience over individualism, age equals seniority, and advancing from the bottom up. The baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964 and are known as being optimistic, competitive, workaholics, and team-oriented. They were shaped by the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and Watergate. They are motivated by company loyalty, teamwork, and duty. They tend to like to communicate face-to-face and over the phone, and their worldview is that achievement comes after paying your dues. Generation X was born between 1965 and 1980 and are known as being flexible, informal, skeptical, and independent. They were shaped by the AIDS epidemic, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the dot-com and technology boom. They are motivated by work-life balance and their personal and professional interests rather than the company's interests. They prefer to communicate in whatever way is most efficient, including phone calls and face-to-face. They tend to be fairly quick to move if their employers don't meet their needs and are resistant to change if it affects their personal lives. The millennials were born between 1981 and 2000 and are known as the competitive, open-minded, and achievement-oriented. They were shaped by Columbine, 9/11, and the rise of the internet. They are motivated by responsibility, the quality of their manager, and unique work experiences. They prefer to communicate via IMs, text, and email. Their worldview is based on seeking challenge, growth and development, a fun work-life balance, and are likely to leave an organization if they don't like the changes being made. Finally, Generation Z was born between 2001 and 2020 and is known as global, entrepreneurial, progressive, and less focused. They have been shaped by life after 9/11, the Great Recession, and access to technology from a very young age. They are motivated by diversity, personalization, individuality, and creativity. They prefer to communicate through social media, text, and instant messaging. Their worldview is that they self-identify as digital device addicts, value independence and individuality, and prefer to work for millennial managers, innovative coworkers, and new technologies. From a workforce perspective, obviously most of the traditionalists are retired. More and more of the baby boomers generation reaches retirement age every day, while Gen Xers will start to outnumber the baby boomers in the workforce by 2028. As of 2025, about 75% of the workforce is now made up of millennials, so there are some major shifts underway with respect to the breakdown of each generation in the workplace going forward. As you can see, each generation has had a completely different experience and therefore a different thought process and reality around how things work. It's very important, therefore, to understand what generation someone is from, as that will give you some insights into how they think and how you can better understand their perspective. The final piece I consider when I'm trying to understand someone's model of the world is the culture they grew up in. While doing a breakdown of every different culture is well outside the scope of today's podcast, culture and language have a major impact on how someone views the world. Right now, there's so much diversity in our world that is becoming more and more of a factor when trying to build rapport with the various people you come into contact with. In fact, I worked for about a decade coaching expats here in Chicago. I coached them on how to understand and integrate into the American culture, which was fascinating as I quickly learned how much culture and language can affect your worldview. Just as an example, I had a client from England that moved here and was in a meeting where the team decided to table the discussion. He then continued to talk about the topic at hand, as in England, to table the discussion means to talk about the topic in depth, while here in the US it means to stop talking about the topic altogether. He was very confused as when he continued to talk about the topic at hand, the rest of the room stared at him and wondered why he kept talking about what they had decided not to. While this is a silly example, it does showcase how even simple cultural things make an impact on how someone shows up and views their environment. So to recap here, there are 5 key things that I look at when I'm trying to understand someone's model of the world. Number 1, their personality. I use DISC as it's a simple model to use, but you can use other personality models like Myers-Briggs if you prefer. The key here is to first understand your personality and then understand the other person's personality. This allows you to better understand how you can flex your style to match theirs to build more rapport. Number 2, their motivators. By understanding the 6 human needs, you can identify what their driving force is and then frame things up in a way that will naturally motivate them. This is a powerful tool when you're looking to build rapport and influence someone. Number 3, how they prefer to communicate. By understanding if they are visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or digital, you can communicate with them in a way that reduces friction and builds immediate rapport. Number 4, what generation they are from. This gives you deep insights into their life experiences, how they grew up, and what some of their beliefs might be. It's important to understand these things as they majorly influence someone's model of the world and therefore are key things to understand in order to build deeper rapport. And finally, number 5, the culture they grew up in. By understanding their culture and upbringing, you'll have a good starting place to build solid rapport with them. I use these tools whenever I meet someone new, as well as any time there's friction in any relationship that I have. By never assuming that I have rapport, it allows me to reassess things when the relationship isn't going smoothly, and that allows me to learn something new about that person, which in turn improves my rapport with them as well as my ability to influence them. So that wraps up today's podcast on how to determine someone's model of the world and build deep and meaningful rapport with them. In one of my future podcasts, I plan on covering the topic of influence as well. If you want to get a head start and dig into that topic, I highly recommend picking up the book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini, who is known as a preeminent expert on the topic. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, the art of building rapport and influence is something that every leader, salesperson, or anyone that wants to be able to connect and influence others must have. By using the model that we discussed today, you'll be well on the way to mastering the art of rapport building. If you found today's episode useful and are interested in learning more about how DISC assessments and DISC-based team building workshops can help you and your team improve teamwork, communication, rapport building, and influencing skills, you can learn more about the assessments that I use in the team building workshops I do on my website at www.businesscoachchicago.com/assessments. Also, feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, as I would love to connect with you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a review, and of course, invite your friends to listen in as well. I'm Tom Kelly, and until next time, enjoy your week.
You've been listening to the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast. On this highly useful podcast for people in the business world, you get the absolute top-notch info from an absolute pro on how to elevate your business and your leadership skills. Tom Kelly owns Potential in Motion, coaching you to the edge of what's possible. He's also a professional speaker and leadership trainer. He's worked with some of the biggest names in the coaching business: Tony Robbins, Ken Blanchard, Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy. To sign up for a complimentary coaching session and to access some great free resources, hit the website at businesscoachchicago.com. Your success is not just a possibility, it's a certainty. See you next time on the Business Coach Unplugged Podcast.